Hello, minha gente, how are y'all? I'm Louisa, this is Louisa Likes Books. Welcome back to my channel. Yay! This video I'm really excited about because I feel like I'm finally able to yap as much as I want about my wonderful books that I've read so far in 2025. So yes, as you know from the title, I am trying to talk about all the books that I've read in 2025 so far. I've read like 24, 25, I would say 25 books because I literally just finished Eclipse because I'm doing a Twilight binge. I'm hoping that I'm able to read more in the next months so I can talk about all the books every month, if that makes sense. Do a reading wrap up at the end of every month instead of waiting this long. No promises though, because my content creation schedule is going crazy right now because I've been posting every day on BookTok for the last month and a half. I've been posting almost every day on my Bookstagram, and I'm trying my best to now start posting every week on my BookTube. So please go ahead and follow me on my BookTok and my Bookstagram because that's where I do more constant reading updates. So I figured I should go in chronological order. All the books from January, all the books from February, which weren't a lot, and all the books from March so far. Honestly, my reading mood and my reading taste the last couple of months have been all over the place. Remember the last video I said I'm a mood reader? I'm a mood reader. But honestly, I'm a mood reader within my favorite genres, within my historical dark romance, contemporary romance, and monster slash fantasy, light fantasy romance. I like gravitate towards any of those at any point of the month. So let's start with February, Louisa. Let's start with January, the first month of the year. Demon's Queen, and the rest is in my Kindle. Where is my Kindle? I don't know where my Kindle is. In January, I read 13 books. According to Storygraph, 3,644 pages, 5 physical and 8 digital, and you will see why, because I binged the heck out of a Alien series at the end of the month. But first things first, I started with Icebreaker. I spent like the first 3 days of January not knowing what to pick up because for some reason I put so much pressure in deciding what the first book of 2025 was that it took me like 3 days to figure that out. And I will say I went into Icebreaker by Hannah Grace with a lot of preconceived notions because it gets so much hate on BookTok. Overall, on the Booker space in general, what I've seen about this book before reading was kind of like good, like it's not groundbreaking, but it's good. I don't know why y'all hate on it so much. And then the majority of things that I had seen about it was this is just gratuitous spice. They're literally just college students doing it all the time. As it turns out, I really liked it. I was like, why are y'all hating on this so much? So basically, the story is about Anastasia Allen and Nate Hawkins. She is a figure skater. He is a hockey player. They basically end up having to share the same training space. It's very much like Dislike to Lovers. They're really needling each other and not liking each other from the jump. But then obviously they form a beautiful relationship. Most of the book is really focused on them training together. Anastasia's partner as a figure skater gets injured, which happens also to be her like best friend ever and her roommate. However, he is extremely toxic. The best friend is extremely toxic, and it's really interesting to see, especially from the like mental health perspective of this. She goes to therapy, and that's really like mentioned many times and focused on many times, which is one of my favorite parts of this book ever. But it's really interesting to see her having to process all the toxic signs from the best friend's relationship and seeing her work through distancing herself from a relationship that had been so prevalent and so present in her life for the longest time. And it was wonderful to see how she leans on therapy and leans on processing her emotions so often, but also on her found family, which is another thing I didn't understand why people hate on this so much. The found family is awesome. Their relationship, sure, they're college kids, sure, they like get drunk all the time and have stupid house parties all the time, but like that's expected. So I ended up giving this a 4 star. The only reason that I didn't give it a higher star rating is because the best friend I felt like deserved more backlash than he got, especially from the amount of stuff that he put her through. The spice is really prevalent, of course. I wouldn't say it's gratuitous spice. It makes sense. So I would definitely say I'm gonna continue. I already got the next 2. I think it's Wildfire and then Daydream, and the next books follow the friends of the friend group that you meet on this one, which is awesome because like I said, the found family in this is so strong and so adorable to see. I then went into Now You're Mine and Once You're Mine, by Morgan Bridges. I had seen some people saying that it was dark romance. It was straight up crazy stalker romance, and I was like, okay. But I had seen a lot of people saying like, this is not amazing, this is not groundbreaking, but it's like a good stalker romance. And I do have Haunting Adeline. I want to get to it at some point. I haven't read anything by H.D. Carlton, so I was like, well, maybe something like this would be a good feat. Dip in the water. What's the saying? Toe in the water? feel the water. I figured something like this would be a good introduction. That's the word I was looking for. I guess it's something like darker stalker romance. Unfortunately, I hated this. This made no sense. Sure, the obsession is cool. Sure, the possession is cool. And sure, it is dark. He does things that are absolutely morally black, not even morally gray, morally black for him to do. It didn't bother me per se because, again, that's the premise. That's what Blurb was telling me it was going to deliver. However, the amount of lies and the amount of lies, deceptions, and controlling attitudes they both had, not just him, but especially, and then they ended up not resolving any of those lies. When the lies come out, it does not make sense that at the end they were okay with it. Overall, there's so many plot holes that it did not make sense to me. Lights Out, for example, I really like because Light Stalkers, if that makes sense, like it's not trying to have that much plot because that's not what we're there for. This was trying to have so much plot and it ended up not doing a good job, and all of the lies just made the plot holes work. It's books like this that I really wish I was a DNFer because I would probably have DNF'd after the first one. Why did I do that to myself? Then I read The Demon's Queen by Katie Robert. This was really short. All of these books in the series are considered novellas. This is the A Deal with the Demon series by Katie Robert. Katie Robert for me has been a constant wonderful writer for me. They have such a big backlist that I love. If you see all of this shelf, it's basically all of their books that I've had read and loved. And I will say I prefer the novels that she writes instead of the novellas. I think she has like 3 different series of novellas that I have read. It gives the characters more space and more time to get developed, and that's, I think, the only thing that I didn't love about this novella. It felt really short for the amount of character development that I wish it had happened. But overall, it was really interesting, especially because the Deal with the Demon series is basically every female main character making a deal with the demon, which is Azazel, and you get Azazel cameos in all of the other books before this one, and then this one was his book, which I thought it was awesome because, again, you get little crumbs, bits and pieces here and there on the rest of the series, and then you get his book. And their relationship was really interesting because they already had a relationship before they make the deal, and it's something that I didn't see coming, and it's not a spoiler because it's in the back. He tricks her into signing the deal. Sure, it was to protect her, but it was not good faith if A Deal with the Demon can ever be in good faith. She didn't know exactly what she was signing. They had a relationship prior. Their relationship was already somewhat formed, and that trick and that break in the trust is basically the main plot. I really wish this was a little bit longer just so we can see the backstory of how they got to be whoever they are in this book a little bit further, a little bit better explored. But overall, I would definitely recommend anything by Katie Robert. And then I got to the 8 Digital. I found this Alien series. If you know me, if you've been on my other pages at all, you know I am obsessed with monster romances. Obviously, a very famous one and an easy one for me to reread is the Iceblade Barbarian series. Yes, it does have 22 books. Yes, I would say it is worth it. Yes, I have read and reread them, and I will most likely read them again. Let's not talk about them right now. The point is, spicy alien romance is my kryptonite, is my addiction, and I will not apologize for it. I found this new one by January Bell. This new series is called Accidental Alien Bride series, and the first one is called The Wed to the Alien Warlord. It has 8 books. Can I count? 1, 2, 3, 8 books. It has 8 books in the series. I would definitely say it's an overall 4-star series for me, 4 and 4.5. There's a couple of books, especially the last few, that I just felt like it was filler books. But obviously the found family, as always in these type of alien series, the found family is amazing. I will say one thing that really stood out for me was basically how skillful and knowledgeable and badass the female main characters are. Obviously this has a lot of tropes that we're used to with alien romances, like, yeah, they can't go back to Earth. Yes, they end up in a place that they've never been before. Yes, they end up having to be mated or brides of these aliens without previous knowledge of what was happening, but they didn't get there by other means. Because, for example, in Iceblade Barbarians and my other favorite spicy alien romance series, the Clocanian series by Victoria Aveline, they both have kind of the same premise where the girls get kidnapped by bad aliens and then they end up in this other planet. They find the good aliens and get saved by the good aliens, and that's how they meet their mates and become fated mates. On this one, they are actually like soldiers. The female main characters. This is an all-female, like, NASA highly trained soldiers expedition. I understood it as like they call it the Federation, but I understood them as NASA. The Federation basically decides that they're gonna send this all-female, highly trained, knowledgeable, like, soldiers astronauts to this other planet, Sueva space, because the name of the country is Sueva, and they're like these reptilian / humanoid type of aliens. They don't cry, so it's really interesting every time the females go through something, like they almost get kidnapped or a really huge dinosaur looking animal in Sueva almost gets them or something, and they start crying of how much emotion, and the mates are like, you have eye water, what's happening? What is happening? It's really cute. I would definitely recommend this. I have all the ebooks and all the audiobooks because I like them so much. My favorite ones are definitely Wed to the Alien Prince is the second one, and Wed to the Alien Brute is the third one. But yeah, as I was saying, the skills that they have are the female main characters have was so interesting, because you see the first female main characters having to go through something with their mates, just basically just them, her and her mate. The female main characters have to use their skills and abilities to save them or get them out of a certain situation that they're in. And I thought it was awesome, because so many of the alien romances that I've read and have seen is always the female that is like, oh my gosh, I have to be saved every time, which again, we love that, and I would definitely read that. But it was great to see a different perspective. So that's January. February, as usual, every year I feel like I do that. I'm like, yay, is the month of love, is Black History Month, is gonna be amazing. And then I'm like, bro, it's the shortest month of the year. I read 6 books in the month of February, which like I said, it was the shortest month of the year, and I was pretty busy, so it wasn't that many, but oh well. I started the month of February buddy reading Taming Cain. Went into this being like, well, it's gonna be an okay book. Sometimes werewolf shifter romances aren't as focused on plot or anything like that, or very much focused on their fated mates relationship and the spice, which is very, very present in this book. I will say that the plot wasn't actually bad. It was pretty interesting to follow along. However, the only reason that I didn't love the plot was very much secondary, spice with a pinch of plot and not the other way around. So at the end, the plot situation got figured out way too fast. Overall, it was okay. I loved how Cain and his werewolf are two different entities, if that makes sense. Like, they're both in the same person. They still have different relationships with her, which I thought it was awesome. Also, something that I thought it was really interesting in like shifter or alien romances, a lot of the times the alien party, I've seen a lot of them having like a more developed sense of taste, sense of smell, and so on and so forth, so they can smell the shift in the mood of the female main character. But this book, I felt like it took it even step further, because he can smell every shift of emotion. So even sometimes that she gets jealous of him or she gets a little insecure, she's trying to like not show it to him, and he picks up that scent and right on her face saying like, why are you feeling that way? I'm here to give you reassurance, there's nobody else but you. And I'm like, it was great. And then I went really freaking dark. I read God of Mallets by Rena Kent for my book club. Some of the girls had said that they had never read any dark romance at all, so they were like, well, maybe let's try one out. I feel like this was not the right one to go, because this is dark. If I could tattoo on my forehead, check trigger warnings every time I thought or recommended this book, I would. Oh my gosh, there's so many trigger warnings and this is crazy. Especially compared to like Once You're Mine by Morgan Bridges that I said I didn't like. It's definitely a better dark romance. The only thing about this that I didn't like and that made me kind of like, maybe I should continue the series, maybe not. I've heard some girls say that they like the rest of the series a lot more. This is not their favorite one, so I'm like, maybe it will get better. But the one thing that I really didn't like was how many characters were introduced. And I know it's part of the Rena Kent universe, like she introduces a bunch of characters because there's so many books, second generation books and so on and so forth, and the books get connected in some way, shape or form, which I appreciate, but I feel like it got way too confusing on this one, especially if I feel really strongly about this, but especially if you say it's a standalone, like either don't include all the characters or at least give me more backstory on each people that is enough for me to understand the context without having to have read their books beforehand, if that makes sense. So definitely not recommend this to everyone. However, if you like non-con, here you go. And that's another thing too, like there's so much trauma in this book from both sides. Y'all need a therapist stat. Especially in the first chapter, like the way that you get introduced by these characters is such a like a shock. Their meet cute is terrifying. Again, I would not recommend this to everyone at all. Then I read Curvy Girl Summer by Danielle Allen. This one, I also went into it with low expectations. I didn't think the plot was gonna suck me in or the character development was gonna suck me in that much. Again, I thought it was just gonna be gratuitous spice, and it really wasn't. So basically, to give a little bit of backstory, basically Aaliyah, the female main character, tells her parents in like a last ditch effort that by the time that she turns 30, which is in a couple months time, they would do this big party, and she would finally have a boyfriend to show them, because they've been like, the clock is ticking, you're about to be 30, you need a relationship. And she does want a relationship, but I feel like there's a lot of growth that she also needs to do. She tries to go in all of these blind dates, and you see her messaging with guys and building type of relationships, goes to this one bar right next to where she lived, and the bartender consoling her after the first very bad date, and their relationship grows, and it's so cute. I felt like the way that their relationship grew was really natural and really organic. He's awesome. They have good banter. They're attracted to each other. It makes perfect sense. But honestly, I loved how it turned into a growth book, and it turned into a book where she has to learn to stand her ground and create boundaries with her family, which, as we all know, is very hard. And then I read Between Commitment and Betrayal by Shane Rose from my book club. I really wanted to like this book. Unfortunately, I absolutely did not. So basically, this is a story of Evie and Declan. Evie has been estranged from her dad most of her life, and then she moves across the country to be kind of with him and try to form some type of relationship. He owns this like really big gym type of place, but it's more than a gym. It's like they have saunas and very good coaches and stuff like that. It's like a really high quality gym for rich people. It's very selective, and it prioritizes obviously high achieving client athletes and so on and so forth. And basically he owns it, and he has a partner who is Declan, and he is a former football player. He's a professional athlete. Her dad and Declan have been partners for forever and best friends for forever. So when she moves across the country to try to form some type of relationship with the dad, and then the dad passes away almost like immediately, you barely see her relationship with her dad, to be honest with you, because then it rushes to him passing away, and then the very tropey part of the book starts where his will is read, and basically for Declan to get all of his stocks, and for Evie to also inherit all the things that she was expecting, including some stuff that she was trying to prioritize for her mom, like the mom's house, the mom yoga studio, and everything else. They need to get married and have a child. Then this like push and pull starts. That trope and that blurb, if you had told me that, I'm like, heck yeah. The forced proximity, the angst, this would be awesome. But again, unfortunately, I was ready to like it, but I did not. It turned messy, and not in a good way. I hate when a lot of stuff gets thrown in the book plot-wise, and then they don't get solved. I will say the spice was really good. There's some jealousy scenes, spicy scenes at the gym. He shuts down the whole gym. Don't know if I'll continue or not, but I gave it a 3.5 stars. I then went into Night Song and Indigo by Beverly Jenkins. Beverly Jenkins is my favorite historical romance author. You probably have not heard it here first, because I talk about how much I love her books all of the freaking time. She is such a good writer, is insane. The way that she weaves, and I have said this so many times, but the way that she weaves history and real stories that have not been taught in school is crazy. She also writes contemporary romance, a few of like mystery romances that I haven't read, and I don't know if I will, to be honest, because my bread and butter, the creme de la creme for me, is her historical romance. She writes historically accurate Black historical romance. And so again, all of these stories that she actually links at the back, that I was so impressed to see that. In her acknowledgement, she's like, oh, would you like to know what I researched to write this book? Here is the link. Here's the book that I read. You can actually learn it from yourself. I'm like, this last month in February, I only read Night Song and Indigo by her. Night Song was one of her spiciest books. This is a story of Carrie Lee and Sergeant Chase Jefferson, I think is his first name. Yeah, Chase Jefferson, in the little small town called Henry Adams. All of her books are also connected in a way that is so nice. It's not just a bunch of characters being thrown in. It's like lightly connected. I had already read, before I went into this book, other books that happen in Henry Adams, and I got a little glimpse of their relationship. It really felt satisfying to read this book later, because I get to see how they got to where they are, which is very adorable. It's a wonderful, very healthy relationship too. But basically, she's a school teacher that has been living in this town called Henry Adams for forever, because she ran away from a really traumatic past, and that is discussed too in such a like careful way, which is another thing about Beverly Jenkins books, all of them, to be honest with you. She treats hard topics of conversation like slavery, like segregation, emotion and everything else in such a clinical, I don't know if clinical manner is the best way to describe it, but in a way that is very like hard truths, for me at least, becomes really palatable in a way that I can still enjoy the wonderful romantic part, but still learn so much from the very real reality of all of these moments and all of these times where real people suffered and real people lived through. I will say this is one of the spiciest books by her. Most of her books, because they're historical romance, have some degree of forbidden romance, because marriage is very prevalent and like the whole you have to be respectful and pure and chastity is a huge thing, because again, it's historical. This one is, I think, in 1864 is even worse. The forbidden aspect of it and the whole like, he is a traveling sergeant. He goes wherever he's sent to. So the whole like, are we supposed to be doing this? Are we gonna even see each other again? I will say check content warnings, because there is a trope in this that I know a lot of people don't like. But oh my god, if I could tell you to read more Beverly Jenkins, it's upside down, Louisa. If I could tell you to read Beverly Jenkins more, I think that's impossible. Then I read what I consider my perfect historical romance book. I am obsessed with this. I feel so bad. Oh my gosh, this was so perfect. Basically, this is a story of Hester Wyatt and the wonderful, the charming Galen Vachon. I think it's Galeno. That's another thing too. Basically, he is from New Orleans. The black families in New Orleans that have a lot of like French influence. So he speaks French and he calls her my petite. I was squealing, I was giggling, it was awesome. But basically, she runs away. She is a former slave. I think she's a slave until like 4 years old, 5 years old. Again, that part is not very focused. In again, even the parts that they talk about the traumatic aspects of it is very clinical in a way that very palatable. It's not dismissed, if that makes sense. They both work in the Underground Railroad. They work for the cause. They're trying to like free as many slaves as possible, get them somewhere that at the time, this also happens in like, slavery is very much not abolished yet. They work together for the cause is what they call it. So basically the way they meet is because Galeno, known as the Black Daniel, is very famous for finding a very crazy amount of ways to free slaves and also take them places like the North States in Canada where they can finally have freedom and liberty. And she also works for the cause because basically she inherited this lease of land from her aunt that also worked for the cause. She has a cellar that most likely she will keep people extra clothes, extra food, how many days they need to stay there with her so that they can continue their journey without being caught and sent back to their masters. Their meet cute is because he ends up at her place taking people that he was freeing in a really bad shape. He has bruises everywhere. I think it's his leg that is broken or something like that. And she starts nursing him back to life and hiding him because he's so famous, the Black Daniel, that slave catchers basically are like rounding the area that they have been told the Black Daniel was seen, trying to find him. So she nurses him back to life. He's being a grumpy little thing because he doesn't like having to depend on other people. In her indigo hands, that's why the name is called indigo, his eyes are swollen shut. Her indigo hands is the first thing that he's able to see and are the hands that nurse him back to life. And he falls hard. My poor guy. So he's trying to find ways to get close to her. She's like, I'm an independent woman. I work for the cause. I don't need your money. I will say check the content warnings because there is a trope in this that is kind of a spoiler that I know a lot of people don't like. Again, this is a perfect example of most historical romance, especially Beverly Jenkins' historical romance, has some type of forbidden romance because they're seen in this little town being together, spending too much time together, being too close or something, and rumors start and people start talking about it and gossiping about it. They're in church one of the Sundays. It's very much like a communal culture thing. Everybody and their mama from the town go to church on Sundays. So grand gesture scene happens in the church because the pastor starts making some digs at her not being married, and this man stops the pastor, gets up in the middle of the church and starts quoting Solomon, calling her my love, my heart, thy lips, O my spouse, drop as the honeycomb, honey and milk are under thy tongue, thy navel is like a round goblet which wanteth not liquor, the joins of your thighs are like jewels. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is scandalous, what the she's like so embarrassed and shy, but it's a beautiful, beautiful scene. And again, I will repeat this, the romantic parts in the true love she adds into every single one of her books, unmatched. So 5,000 stars. Do I have to say anything? Go read this book. And I can be a freak into the day, into the day. Oh, hi. How are y'all? 3 hours later, because I had to stop to make dinner, because I'm just a single girl who works 2 jobs, who loves her kids and never stops I in fact do not have any kids yet, but that's not the point. That's what we're talking about. I then started this series by Runix. I don't even know the name of the series, to be honest. Oh, the Darkverse. Darkverse. I'm your father. Yeah, the Darkverse book 1. This had been in my TBR for forever. I know a bunch of my mutuals that really, really like this. And from what I understood, it was like dark, mafia, rivals, enemies, kinda to lovers. Me being me, I'm like, if I really like the first one, I'm probably just gonna binge the whole series in like a week. And I'm gonna have the best time of my life. Because that's usually how I go about series. You saw what I did about the Alien series. I read that whole thing in a week and a half. But I didn't do it with this one. I only read the first one, I think in the middle of February, and then I stopped it a little, and then I started March with the next 2 in the series, because, and I posted a TikTok about it at like 2 a.m. on a random Saturday. I was like, you know what, TikTok for you, babe, you're right. Maybe I should stop everything that I'm reading and binge the Twilight Saga. But I'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about The Predator by Runix, because this has so much potential of becoming one of my favorite dark mafia romance series ever. This one, which I usually don't gravitate towards, it's a series that both the 2 first books, The Predator and The Reaper, usually I like the plot and the story of one couple to be fully completed in one book, and then I follow along with like the found family, the other people in the friend group. But I felt like this was really well done because the plot is so interesting. This is absolutely not like a interconnected standalone series. You have to read it in order, which is Predator, The Reaper, The Emperor. Please hold. Found it. As I was saying before I realized one of the books was missing, the correct order is The Predator, The Reaper, The Emperor, The Finisher, and then The Annihilator, and then The Syndicator, which is the thickest one, which is the last one ever. As far as I'm concerned, 4 couples, 6 books, 1 saga. Boom, boom. So I'm really excited to get to these 2 because the first 3 of the series that I read, I really, really, really enjoyed. And it is mafia and it is dark. Like, people get unalive. Both the FMC and the MMC catch bodies on both of these, I think, if I remember correctly. These 2, which is the same, about the same couple, is about Tristan Kane, the one Tristan Kane, the Predator, and Marona Vitalio. They are from rival mafia families. She is the daughter of one of the mafias in their town, and he is Tristan Kane, adopted son of the other mafia boss that we also don't like. So they're not supposed to be even within 5 feet of each other, and they shouldn't be in each other's territory either. But there's something that you learn, I think, end of the first one, the Predator, there's something that has been connecting them since they were little kids. And that's what I'm saying. This series gives you the feels of like, I need to know everything that's happening. I know for a fact while reading like the first few chapters that there's gonna be so much lore that's gonna be unpacked. There's gonna be so much history between all of these people that we're gonna start revealing. It gets me going. It gets me so excited. Not everything from the plot that they've been introducing and acknowledging on the first 3 has been fully like revealed on these first 3 books. That's why I'm saying like it can't be a interconnected type of thing because you're not gonna understand the plot. So yeah, I'm loving the series. It's very spicy, but also very angsty. Tristan Kane barely talks. I almost feel like they are vampires that one can read the mind of the other because the way they communicate is so interesting. And when you start getting bits and pieces of how much they've been connected and how much their paths have kind of like intertwined throughout their whole lives, it's way too good. The protectiveness, I fear you are not out of my system of it all. I ate it up. I think this is probably my favorite couple so far. However, this couple is also really, really good. This one, there's a lot of trauma, so check your trigger warnings. It's technically a second chance. It's childhood friends to lovers, but this one has a lot of trauma because she gets kidnapped and tortured because she is connected to his mafia family. So the mafia rivals are trying to get information out of her, but she knows very little, and the little that she knows, she does not crack. And we get to meet her on the first one. She's a wonderful person. She turns out to be a wonderful, kind person, even though she lived through horrendous things. But also the way that he protects her, even though sometimes he'd be hiding stuff from her to protect her, that got me so absurd. Like, why are you doing that? Just tell her. Other than that, I really, really liked it. The possessiveness, the protectiveness, the drama, and the intrigue of everything that is happening, all the chess pieces moving, and how he's playing with all of these people is very, very interesting. So if that interests you, you should pick this up. And last but not least, the one, then only, hold on, this one's, there you go. The one and only the Twilight Saga. Hiya, Louisa post-editing here. Unfortunately, I greatly underestimated, as usual, how much I talk. And I ended up talking for like 30 more minutes just about Twilight. So I figured I would cut that video and make a video specifically about Twilight and specifically about my thoughts. I am currently in like the 30-ish% mark of Breaking Dawn, which has been a ride. It's been so good. And again, I have so many thoughts. It is my first time ever reading Twilight. Stay on the lookout because I will indeed record a whole video just about my Twilight thoughts as an adult. And hopefully I'll record some reactions while I'm reading Breaking Dawn. And we'll see what baby Renesmee has to do, because as we know from the movies, she shows up breaking bones. Back to past Louisa. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. I talked a lot on this video. I hope you got some good recommendations. I am excited to continue making more videos like this. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I have more ideas and more videos coming out soon. Also, make sure to find me on the other Bookish accounts. I can never fit everything on here, and I am trying to share my TikToks on Shorts as well, but I feel like it's not the same, you know? Follow me over there. We have fun. It's a fun time. Okay, beijo, bye.